Howdy, folks. Welcome back or welcome aboard. You are listening to Doc Owen Show. This is Dr. Richard Owen, and
I'm a surefire.
And
Uncle Bocce
is in the house.
Yay.
It has been a wonderful week, but a busy week. We are all over the social media as Doc Owen Show, DOCOWENSHOW, and we are cranking up our new blog, spelled the same way, docowenshow.com. When we get into tonight's show, you will understand better why we are going into the blogosphere and going to start doing an awful lot of things over there on that side. Earlier this week, this is the first week that the Doc Owen Show basically has had 3 shows during the week. On Monday, we broadcast Saint Cities by Doc Owen Show, which is a 1-hour special focus on sanctuary cities. Good, the bad, the ugly, etc., etc. That will be every Monday night. On Wednesday nights, we focus on what was called Campus Connection by Doc Owen Show. And that's kind of taking us back to our roots, back to basics. It will be all about high school and college campuses, both geo-based as well as probably virtual-type campuses that are run by distance learning type organizations, et cetera, and some of the nuances and challenges that enterprise faces, as well as some of the advantages it provides to young people. So, you know, we're doing Monday, Wednesday, Friday on Red State Talk Radio, and our live Thursday night. So the broadcast is heard right here on Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday night is our standard Doc Owen Show live broadcast with all the usual players, usual information, and usual focus of, shall we call it, current events. But we felt like both sanctuary cities and campuses deserved their own hour. There's just that much information out there. So let's start off the Doc Owen Show in our traditional manner. Ms. Surefire will start off with an inspirational quote, followed by Uncle Bocce's Today in History at some point in the past, and I'll follow it up with a leadership quote, and then we'll dive in. Ms. Surefire, take it away.
Tonight's quote, as usual, comes from inspirationaldaily.com, and it's from a gentleman by the name of Henry Ford. And if y'all can recall, he was an American industrialist, founder of the Ford Motor Company, that also led to being a sponsor of development of the assembly line technique of mass production.
Yep.
Yes. And his quote is, "Coming together is a beginning. Keeping together is progress. And working together is success."
I like it.
Good.
I like it.
Yeah.
You know that
He was
Mr.
a
Ford,
wise man, Mr. Ford.
smart guy too.
Yeah.
But he'd have never made it in today's world. He would have come straight out of the barrel as a racist.
I'm sure.
Do you remember about his cars?
They were all black.
Yeah.
You can have any color you want as long as it's black.
black, yeah.
That was his favorite phrase. So
Yeah.
right then and there,
That,
dead as a doornail.
that's right.
Anyway,
Good observation.
Uncle Bocce, what happens at some point in the past on September the 1st?
A lot.
Well, we don't have that much time.
No, we don't.
Okay.
But so first of all,
Pick one.
in 1775,
All right.
a last-ditch effort was made to convince George III to reconcile with the colonies. The petition that was presented to him was called the Olive Branch Petition. And, of course, King George summarily dismissed it. Then came the war.
And as we say, the rest is history.
The rest is history.
Okay, King George. Actually, I'm glad he did it. I know it was a tough time to go through, but we're all better off for it. Thanks, Bocce. Tonight's leadership quote from our friends at Crown to Grace International is from former President John F. Kennedy. He said, "Change is the law of life, and those who look only to the past or present are certain to miss the future."
That's a good one.
Yeah.
I like
Okay.
that one.
Past or present, miss the future.
That's right.
Thank you very much. All right, with that, Uncle Bocce, you ready to give us Uncle Bocce's brief and a little walk through history?
Let's go for it.
Take it away.
We're still studying the growth of slavery, and here's some facts about the slave trade and slavery. Over the period of the Atlantic slave trade, from approximately 1526 to 1867,
Wow.
12.5 million slaves had been shipped from Africa, and 10.7 million had arrived in the Americas. So they didn't all come to the Americas. They were all over the world.
Okay.
Now, the first Africans...
Via diaspora.
Yes, if you want to use that word, yes.
Okay.
We used it last time.
Right.
Okay. The first Africans forced to work in the New World left actually not from Africa, but from Europe at the beginning of the 16th century. So they did not come from Africa. The Brits and the Dutch brought them here before we became America. The first slave voyage direct from Africa to the Americas probably sailed around 1526.
Wow.
Now, the volume of slaves carried from Africa reached 30,000 per year in the 1690s and 85,000 per year a century later.
To the United States?
Yes, sir. Into North America.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
We weren't the United States yet.
No, we were
but
not.
into North America.
That's correct.
85,000 a year.
Wow.
That is correct. And we'll see some more statistics on that in a minute. More than 8 out of 10 Africans forced into slave trade made their journeys in the century and a half after 1700. By 1820, nearly 4 Africans for every 1 European had crossed the Atlantic. So there were more immigrants from Africa in that period than there were Europeans.
Wow. 4 times as many.
About 4 times. Yeah. And even 4 out of every 5 females were included in that. The majority of the enslaved Africans were brought to British North America.
Okay.
Okay, that was between 1720 and 1780.
Not
Now-
the Spanish colony, not the Spanish
No.
areas nor French areas.
No, this
the
is
British.
directly to the British.
Okay.
So there's a point here that I want to make. Well, let me go a little bit further. The decade of 1821 to 1830, they still saw over 80,000 people a year leaving African slave ships. Well over 1 million more, 1/10 the volume carried off the slave trade era, followed within the next 20 years. Africans were also taken to Brazil, many of them. Most of those people came from Angola, which was a Portuguese
Right.
colony, so it made sense. But the others, came to North America and the Caribbean from mainly West Africa, and we've talked about that before, about West Africa.
Were all of these folks, Bocce, in your research, were all of these folks brought here in chains and irons and against their own free will? They were captured, and are those stories that we learned true?
For the most part, yes, they were.
Okay.
The first ones came over as indentured servants.
Okay.
Okay, so
But what-
they
but
probably
what-
didn't have, but yes, they were stripped.
But after we got through the first layer, if you will,
Right.
of those that were somewhat willing to come with
Yeah.
some hope for the future, then we dug down and it was by pure force.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, only about 6% of African captives were sent directly to British North America. Yet by 1825, the U.S. had a quarter of blacks in the New World. There were more here than there were anywhere else. Now, the point that I want to make here, people, is understand, I know slavery is a horrible thing, but it was not America that instituted slavery in the colonies. It was the British and the Dutch who did that.
Okay. Who are also chastised for their global colonization efforts.
Exactly.
That the United States, America, has never done.
Has never, ever done. That's
right.
correct.
I mean, every war we've fought, every country we've gone in to liberate, everything that we've done on a global scale has not been to take over that territory as a possession.
That is correct.
Nor their resources, nor anything else.
That is correct.
So I think that's a lesson that needs to be taught. And it's also a lesson that we learned as a result of this slave trade.
Exactly.
Because I know because our founding fathers were really not all that crazy about the slave trade. I mean, that was a major part of the argument.
Absolutely.
When they were putting together the Constitution and the Bill of Rights.
Exactly.
Okay,
and
I don't want to get ahead
point.
of you.
That's a good point that I want to make later. I mean, our time is up for now, but that is something that we're going to talk about.
I'm sure.
Absolutely.
They probably spent days discussing it, and we'll get 15 minutes to review it. But
there you go.
But I mean, if it goes on for more than one show, it goes on because it's a real, it's a real critical point that the young people definitely need to understand because of the picture that is painted current day is it's partially true, but not 100%. And I think we learned a lesson, and we reacted accordingly. As a young nation, we reacted accordingly.
Yes, we did.
Okay. All right. That's it?
That's it for this week, yes.
Wow. Good job, Uncle Bocce.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. So where are we going to go next week? Do you know yet?
Yes, next week we'll be talking a little bit more about the African Americans, what their lives were like in the British colonies.
Okay, fair enough.
We'll make that distinction.
Are you getting too many emails? Are you not going to tell anybody where to find you?
I'm not going to tell anybody. I don't want you to find me.
Okay.
After saying all these things. No, it's Uncle Bocce, UNCLEBACI at DocOwenShow.com. Challenge me, folks. I'm ready for you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Uncle Bocce.
We have got we've got a very interesting show tonight. I will tell you this right up front. Last week we had an interview with a conservative rock star by the name of Dinesh D'Souza. There is no way to top that. So we're going to take a week off from long-winded interviews and let that subside just a little bit, and then we'll crank it back up next week. Just as a fair warning. Right now we're going to take a little 1-minute break for the cause, and we will be right back.
In these uncertain economic times, you've got to do whatever you can to save money. One of our biggest expenses can be our cars, especially when unexpected repair bills hit. Not anymore. If you own a vehicle with less than 130,000 miles, is less than 12 years old, has a warranty about to expire, or even no warranty at all, you could stop paying for car repairs. Roadside assistance, towing, and rental coverage are all included. Don't wait for the next repair. Make one free call right now to see if you qualify. If your vehicle is less than 12 years old, has less than 130,000 miles, even if it's out of warranty, paying for car repairs can become a thing of the past. Call us right now and get your car protected before your next repair bill hits. Get protection and no more repair bills. Call 877-212-5898. Again, 877-212-5898. That's 877-212-5898. 877-212-5898.
rise. What so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fights, oh, the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets trembling, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free, and the home of the brave? Because we are the brave. Yes, we are the brave. We'll fight you in the name of the brave. We are the US of A. For those unaware, that flag is still there. It's our future to save. This land of the brave, the US of A. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free, in the home of the
Okay, so I fudged just a little bit when I said we weren't going to follow Dinesh D'Souza with another rock star.
Love you, David.
That's our friend David Bray,
Awesome.
the lead singer on one of the best absolute all-time versions of the Star Spangled Banner. David
Yes, sir.
Bray. You can look him up on Facebook and out there on the net as Brave Day USA or as David Bray. So thanks, David. With complete permission, by the way, to play the entire song. Gained a long time ago. The next gentleman is not an interview, but I wanted you to hear his words in order to set the tone and set the attitude correctly for the rest of the show, in which we are going to spend time connecting some dots. There will be news stories that you heard of, some maybe not, because of other nonsense that they put out there in the mainstream media to deflect attention on the real stuff. But we're going to connect some dots that you may not have thought of connected. But before we go there, let's listen to a gentleman by the name of Trey Gowdy, who is a House of Representatives in the House of Representatives from, I believe, South Carolina or North Carolina, one of the Carolinas. I think it's South Carolina. South Carolina. Listen up as Mr. Gowdy addresses the House of Representatives. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to talk for just a moment as colleagues, not as Republicans or Democrats, not as members of the majority or the minority, colleagues who are blessed to serve in the United States House of Representatives, the People's House, with all the tradition, with all the history, with all the laws that have been passed, with all the lives that have been impacted. I want us to talk as colleagues, because our foundational document gave us, as the House, unique powers and responsibilities. We run every 2 years because they intended for us to be closest to the people. The President was given different duties and powers. The President was given the duty to take care that the laws be faithfully executed. So my question, Mr. Speaker, is what does that mean to you, that the laws be faithfully executed? We know the President can veto a bill for any reason or no reason. We know the President can refuse to defend the constitutionality of a statute, even one that he signs into law. We know the President can issue pardons for violations of the very laws that we pass. And we know that the President has prosecutorial discretion as evidenced and used through his U.S. attorneys. Mr. Speaker, that is a lot of power. What are we to do when that amount of power is not enough? What are we to do when this president or any president decides to selectively enforce a portion of a law and ignore other portions of that law? What do we do, Mr. Speaker, regardless of motivation, when a president nullifies our vote by failing to faithfully execute the law? How do we explain waivers and exemptions and delays in a bill passed by Congress and affirmed by the United States Supreme Court? How do we explain away a refusal to enforce mandatory minimums that were passed by Congress and affirmed by the Supreme Court? And why pursue, Mr. Speaker, immigration reform if presidents can turn off the very provisions that we pass? You know, in the oath that brand new citizens take, it contains 6 different references to the law. If it's good enough for us to ask brand new citizens to affirm their devotion to the law, is it too much to ask that the President do the same? If a president can change some laws, can he change all laws? Can he change election laws? Can he change discrimination laws? Are there any laws under your theory that he actually has to enforce? What is our recourse, Mr. Speaker? What is our remedy? Some would argue the framers gave us the power of the purse and the power of impeachment, but Mr. Speaker, those are punishments. Those are not remedies. What is the remedy if we want the executive to enforce our work? This bill simply gives us standing when our votes are nullified. This bill allows us to petition the judicial branch for an order requiring the executive branch to faithfully execute the law. Mr. Speaker, we are not held in high public esteem right now. Maybe members of Congress would be respected more if we respected ourselves enough to require that when we pass something, it be treated as law. Maybe we would be more respected if we had a firmly rooted expectation that when we pass something as law, it be treated as law. Maybe we would be more respected if we put down party labels and to keep or retain or acquire gavels and picked up the history, the tradition, and the honor of this, the People's House. Mr. Speaker, the House of Representatives does not exist to pass suggestions. We do not exist to pass ideas. We make law. And while you are free to stand and clap when any president comes into this hallowed chamber and promises to do it with or without you, I will never stand and clap when any president, no matter whether he's your party or mine, promises to make us a constitutional anomaly and an afterthought. We make law.
Mr. Trey Gowdy. First headline of the night. Free speech dies in September. The U.S. is being conditioned to accept censorship as the UN takes over. It's by an author by the name of Rick Wells that I've read and quoted often. The trend is deliberate and unmistakable. A global stifling that ends with the elimination of free speech is underway. Their intent is to control our communication with one another, to remove our ability to object to their tyranny, and to prevent us from being able to rally to oppose their authoritarian dictates. The globalist oligarchs have successfully enacted restrictions through the use of the filter of hate speech across Europe, where it is now a criminal act to object to countries. Think about that for a minute. It's a criminal act to object to the invasion of your own country. Islamist invaders have become a protected class that are not to be spoken of in negative terms. It is unlawful to denounce the accompanying crime, social degradation, cultural destruction, diminished standard of living, quality of life, or to object to the Islamist aggressions. The problem is, it's working. Our founding fathers would have exploded in anger at the concept of free speech zones, yet they have become commonplace. By definition, their existence is an admission that speech is less than free in other areas. This is a topic we plan to dive into on the Campus Connection, because I think they are rampant on college campuses, having free speech zones. The elimination of free speech as a right will mark the end of the United States as we know it. And what he's talking about is the handing over of the Internet to the United Nations that is set to happen on September the 30th. The only area of mass communication that is not controlled by the globalist oligarchs is the Internet. That's exactly why Doc Owen Show is there and will stay there for as long as allowed.
Amen.
They are quickly working to add it to their portfolio of propaganda spreading structures. It will be the crowning jewel of their acquisition of total control, standing alongside the media posing as a free press, print, music, theater, and television. Constitutional, freedom-loving ideas are a threat to their power, and they intend to remove our ability to communicate our ideals and objections to their violations among one another. It's a little bit longer article, but the bottom line is be prepared to object. You got 30 days. If you have any inkling of writing your congressman, calling your congressman, getting involved, now would be the time to do it. You can't sit on your hands and let this happen. And you can't think that it won't happen. In other words, we got to be active. We got to be proactive about not giving away the Internet.
Exactly.
And if you think it's not going on, California is set to criminalize video stings, such as the one of Planned Parenthood. So basically, California has said, this is banned. This is against the law. You cannot do that. You can't expose somebody through obtaining a surreptitious tape or audio or video of any kind. Free speech.
Yeah.
California just wiped it out.
Censorship.
Total censorship.
Hard.
What's interesting about this is that the way that the progressives do this is that they divide, they break down. There was no such thing as hate speech. Speech is free in this country, but they break it down: judicial speech, hate speech, this, and they put such a onus on them that they are such terrible things that people say, "Oh yeah, we shouldn't do that." But there goes your freedom.
Yeah.
there goes your freedom.
That's why they do it. It's called divide
Absolutely.
and conquer.
Yeah.
Divide.
And when they can't do it in this country, they go to the UN.
That's right. Yeah, and bring it back to us. Now that we've got Uncle Bocce fired up,
You sure do.
I think it may be time to take a little break and regroup, and we'll change the channel. But I'm going to get him equally as fired up when we go down the next one. I know it's going to happen. Let's take a little 30-minute break, and we will be right back. 30-second break, not 30 minutes.
Hi, I'm George Foreman. Do you have an idea for a new product or invention? People ask me all the time, George, how do I get my idea in front of companies? How do I get a patent? What do I do next? Do you have the same questions? I'll tell you like I'll tell them all. Call my friends at InventHelp.
Call InventHelp today for free information. InventHelp can submit your invention to companies who are interested in receiving new ideas.
Call 1-800-352-3127. Again, 1-800-352-3127. A fee-based company.
Welcome back, folks, or welcome aboard. This is the Doc Owen Show. Now, coming up is a gentleman I just love to quote. A fellow by the name of James Carville. Mr. Carville is a political analyst. Grew up and probably still lives down in New Orleans somewhere. And he's a big Clinton backer.
Oh,
Yeah. All right. So, Mr. Carville is a longtime aide to both Bill and Hillary Clinton. He admitted on Tuesday that the Clintons' decision to accept foreign donations via the Clinton Foundation was an unwise political move, though he stopped short of labeling it a bad or unethical call. In other words, he said the optics were bad. He went on to say that the Clinton Foundation actually does a lot of good. What he left out is they do that good with 6% of what they take in. 94% of what they take in goes to the Clintons.
Deception.
That's about as long as I can maintain the farce of that New Orleans.
Deception.
So, having said that, right word.
Deception.
Perfect word.
Absolutely.
Are you aware that 2 states have had their voter databases broken into?
Yes, I've heard about that.
Arizona and Illinois
Yes.
have both been hit by cyber attacks and had their voter ID databases upset. As a matter of fact, when some people in those states went to vote, and others, about 5 other states, when they went to vote in primaries, they found out that they couldn't vote because their party affiliation had been changed. If you're familiar with primary voting, you declare you're a participant or a supporter, or you want to vote in a certain primary, and that tags you as a D or an R or a L for Libertarian or whatever else there is, and that's the only primary you can vote in. So if you are a Republican, you go down to vote and find out your voter record has been changed and now you're a Democrat, you can't vote in the primary.
It's too late then.
But that's how they found out they'd been hacked. Mm-hmm. So what would be the response to that, do you think, Uncle Bocce? What would be the response to a cyber attack on voter databases?
I'd say let's go back to the paper ballot.
Well, no.
You don't like that, do you?
I didn't ask you for a solution. That's the solution. I agree with you, but what would be the response? I'll give you the response.
You go ahead and give us a response.
The Department of Homeland Security, the federal government, is going to take over voting.
Yeah, they're threatening to take it over.
Well, right on cue. Now that what they're threatening to do is to make it a part of our critical infrastructure,
yes,
such as the electric grid.
Changing the definition.
Deception. Put it in. That's why I said that was a good word. They're going to put it into the critical infrastructure, which means they control it, they manage it, they look over it, they're responsible for it. Right?
Sneaky power grab.
It's beyond a sneaky power grab, man. This is the voting.
That's right.
These are the voting machines that are a state right, by the way.
That's right.
So they have successfully, almost coast to coast, wiped out all of the voter ID laws for this upcoming election, and now they're going to. So we got no way of checking them when they come in to vote. All right, and the federal government's going to run the voting machines, so we got no way of checking them when the vote's over.
That's correct.
But
Local control.
Banana Republic. This to me reads like something that I read about in South America 20 or 30 or 40 years ago.
Yes, sir. That's where we're headed.
Yep.
The article says we should carefully consider whether our election system, our election process, is critical infrastructure like the financial sector, like the power grid. That came from Homeland Security Chief Jay Johnson. Never trust anybody that doesn't know how to spell their own name.
Ooh.
J-E-H. J. That's how he spells it.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Needless to say, I guess it's really not his fault, it's Obama's. Needless to say, we can't have hackers messing with our elections, and something needs to be done. And like the author of the article, I just don't know if the Department of Homeland Security can be trusted or if they are the ones that should be fixing this problem.
Yeah, of course they can. I mean, look what the government does with the VA. Look what the government does with Obamacare. Look at what the government does. If they get control over it, your rights are slaughtered.
It's not just your rights. I mean, everything about
Everything
it.
is
is
Everything.
messed up.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, are you connecting dots?
I'm connecting dots all over the place.
You've lost the internet, and now the feds have taken over the electoral system. Mm-hmm. And these things haven't happened, but they're on the horizon.
They're on the horizon.
And they're pushing hard, and they're pushing really hard to get all this stuff done before the November election. 68, 67 days away, however many it is.
Not to ignore all of the regulations that they're pushing through.
So, exactly. So this article, are you ready? Everybody sitting down? The election is a ticking time bomb. Chaos will erupt in less than 100 days. It might be history's weirdest U.S. election cycle. Every moment has been a scandal and an upset. Each day closer to the election, a rise in tensions and an upping of the stakes. Okay? Could any election outcome result in sprawling episodes of violence and dissent? Listen to these two scenarios. This is by the author, as I've publicly predicted numerous times over the last year, if Donald Trump wins, the radical extreme leftists go on a violent rampage that leads to the rest of us begging for martial law. After a half dozen cities burn with riots and looting, Trump invokes a national emergency, deploying National Guard troops across the most devastated urban areas, and the radical left finds itself in a shooting war with the government. Option 1. Option 2. If Hillary Clinton wins, all the Trump supporters have been violently assaulted, spat upon, and physically attacked by the radical left, unholster their concealed weapons and start shooting back. This quickly escalates into open warfare between lunatic leftist Hillary supporters and armed Trump Second Amendment people who basically figure they've got nothing left to lose anyway, so why not fight to save America?
Sounds like something that would never happen, but I don't know. The closer we get to this election, the more it seems like the Obama administration just wants the chance to control everything. It's even questionable whether he will hand over the reins of leadership to Donald Trump should he win. That's even been brought in question. People, guys, you know what's going on.
So what do? Do we complete? I mean, I'm probably more engaged than the average citizen. All three of us are. I'd say our audience is more engaged than the average citizen. What do we do? I mean, how do we deal with it? You can't ignore these two scenarios. You can't ignore this as a conspiracy theory. You can't ignore the possibility of that we are on a powder keg.
Yes.
And both sides feel very, very strongly about their position and are totally unwilling to work. They're going to be unwilling to work with the winner, I'm afraid.
Yeah, and the Democrats, those progressive liberals, they're going to win either way, okay? Because this is the scenario. If Trump wins, they will not hand over the reins, and they'll declare martial law, and they will keep in power.
They wouldn't dare.
You don't think so?
No,
I don't put anything past Obama. And if they actually do win, if Hillary Clinton gets in there, there's no way for them to lose. They have got us tied up in such a knot because we will not have the ability to respond.
If I understand. I mean, if the internet's gone in September, it wouldn't take but a heartbeat to shut it off. So there goes the loss of communication for unfiltered patriotic Americans. The ability to communicate. That's why I asked you earlier what it took to be what I used to call a ham radio operator, a shortwave operator.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
next. Where are you going with that?
All right. But put the shoe on the other foot. You're being one-sided about it, and that's okay. But look at it the other way. Against all odds, against all the odds that we just laid out about the voting machines and the Obama and blah 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 blah, Trump wins, and Obama hands over the reins reluctantly, late, but he does it. Okay, it's still there's an equally high probability or possibility that it ain't going to go smoothly.
Exactly. First time in our history.
Yeah. It's embarrassing.
If it doesn't. And the thing is,
it's on a global scale, to me, it's very embarrassing.
People make fun of us, I'm sure.
Yeah, so if they do get control of the internet, then we lose our freedom of speech to protest. But we cannot. Why are they waiting until now to say voter fraud has been in existence for a long time?
It has nothing to do with voter fraud.
No, but it's the idea, the concept that they're being hacked. Okay.
Yeah.
The government is waiting until the last minute. Why? Because we can't even challenge that in court. There's no time. The election will be over. How are we going to challenge it within our system? People, we're losing it. I'm losing it.
Yeah, I know how to hit his hot buttons.
Yeah.
So it says, and this is from the author, but I happen to agree, and Uncle Bocce will, his reaction attests to it. Things are at a breaking point in America. And the only thing holding back a mass revolt right now is the looming elections. That's the only thing that's keeping a lid on it with certain aspects. And the reason I brought up being involved, I am surrounded, as most of you are, by people on a day-to-day basis that either don't have a clue or could not care less or think it's all going to be okay no matter who wins, that life goes on. I wish I could think that way. I wish I could, put on a pair of rose-colored glasses and be a Pollyanna. But unfortunately, my emotions, my tags, my outreach, whatever you want to call it, is just not in tune with that kind. Never has been.
Your sphere of reality is not the same.
No, it's not. Topper? You want a topper?
Oh boy.
Like we're the like we're the only ones that know this is going on?
Yeah.
Russia preparing for massive war by building dozens of underground nuclear command posts. Russia is getting ready for a big war, which they assume will go nuclear, with them launching the first attacks. Said a fellow by the name of Schneider with the National Institute for Public Policy, a Virginia-based think tank. So I guess what I'm telling you is those outside of our sphere of influence are watching. Mm-hmm. And the problem is if America erupts in one form or fashion, that makes us totally vulnerable for the outsiders to come in. Right?
Yes, it does.
For the first time in our history.
I've seen it in other countries that
Exactly.
the year of the election is always very vulnerable for the people in the country because things happen.
That's
Even Mexico, it happens.
well, but that's why we've always been. That's why it's always been. We've held that at bay. That's never been a concern here, because we've never had two candidates like we've got. I mean, these folks, both of the two leading candidates are way out there. I'm not chastising either one, and I have to put my faith in one of them. Trump's magic turns liberals into conservatives. Call him a magician if you like, or an alchemist. Whatever you call it, Trump has tapped into some kind of wizardry. And Jose Del Rio's article in Tuesday's Washington Post is a fine place to see that magic in action. He said, for Donald Trump, appealing to minority groups and women often amounts to an us versus them proposition, warning one group that it is being threatened or victimized by another, using exaggerated contrasts and a very broad brush. I think what Mr. DeReal really objects to is a Republican using Democrat tactics. And it works. Right? Mm-hmm. We talked about Germany and hate speech, et cetera, et cetera. Mm-hmm. Are you aware the Obama administration celebrated their 10,000 Syrian refugee program ahead of schedule, right?
Oh, they're so happy.
Ms. Clinton has already told you she's going to bring in over 85,000. Mm-hmm. What you may not know is that I tapped in. There's a thing out there on the State Department's website called the Reception and Placement Program.
Oh,
the
golly.
Reception and Placement. Sounds like a gala.
Yeah.
Planning for refugees' arrival in the United States, and once in the United States are the headlines to the documents and instructions. Also out there is a map. Since June 1st, which is interactive, you can put your dates in. So I put in June 1st of 2015 until August the 31st of 2016. All nationalities. By state, how many refugees have come in? All right? Mm-hmm. Guess who leads the United States in foreign refugees?
Texas.
Probably some Republican state, like Texas or Utah.
Texas. That's what I'm thinking.
Texas. You're right.
It is Texas. Yeah, of course.
9,932. The next closest was California with 8,800. So they place them where they, being the administration, places them where they, quote, need them.
Need the votes.
Right? Where they need the votes, where they want the votes. Mm-hmm. That's a really good website. Is the state government, and it's the refugee what is it? PRM placement something, and anyway, it's a good website. Got all kinds of good information on it. Okay, one more. The headline says the IRS does not tell 1 million taxpayers that illegals have stolen their Social Security numbers. The IRS knows it.
They know it.
They've
known a lot of things.
They've known it for a long time. Okay. Discovered more than 1 million Americans whose Social Security numbers were stolen by illegal immigrants. But officials never bothered to tell the taxpayers themselves. The agency's inspector general said in a withering new report released Tuesday. The investigators first alerted the IRS to the problem 5 years ago, but it's still not fixed. As a result, most taxpayers don't learn that their identities have been stolen and their Social Security files may be screwed up. Taxpayers identified as victims of employment-related identity theft are not notified. In other words, you're on your own.
There you go.
But they're perfectly capable of giving away the internet. They're perfectly capable of running our voting system. Just because they can't do this doesn't mean that they can't take over the voting system, right?
There you go.
I mean, they're going to put the people that run Amtrak in charge of it.
Hypocrisy.
It's not hypocrisy. It's stupid.
It's right out. Yeah.
It's just plain
You're right.
ass stupid. And so while we're fighting over all these things, there's a fellow out there by the name of Farrakhan, Louis Farrakhan, the Nation of Islam, from the 60s and the 70s, if I remember correctly, right? Well, he took his little feeble butt up on the stand, and he's demanding land and billions of dollars for a new black nation.
Yep.
Okay? I mean, I assume he's going to want to take over the South, but nonetheless, he wants his own territory.
Yeah.
That's 100% black.
Aaron Burr tried to do that too.
He did?
And he got slammed. Yes, he did. He tried to take part of the Louisiana Territory and part of Mexican-controlled area, and he wanted to set up a separate republic there. And he got slammed for that. But we won't get slammed.
Aaron
Farrakhan.
Burr.
Aaron Burr, yeah, the guy who shot Hamilton.
Oh, I thought.
duel?
Okay, good. That's not who
A
shot
former
Liberty
vice
Valance.
president? No.
Okay.
No.
That's the only one that I remember getting shot. He shot Hamilton.
He shot in a duel, yeah. He shot Alexander Hamilton, one of our greatest leaders.
He's just full of historical information.
What can I say?
I like it. I like it.
You go, Uncle Bachi.
Folks, we've laid it all out there. I don't see how much better we can connect the dots. We are not in trouble, but we are in a very precarious position.
We sure are.
We need each and every one of you and each and every person that you know to be involved to help protect the United States of America. If not, if you can't find your way to do that and to bring somebody with you, God help us all, because it's going to get ugly, and it's going to get tough, and we're going to need to be prepared. I don't know. I don't see any way out of at least some of it. Some of us will have it worse than others. There'll be areas of front row. Time to go. You have been listening to the Doc Owen Show. Thank you so much for having us. We really appreciate it. Now go out there this week and take care, pay attention, and God bless.
Bye-bye, folks. God bless.